The shattering of trust. The conference chamber stretched before Ambassador Marcus Chin like a vast cathedral of chrome and starlight. He had walked this path 100 times before, but today felt different. Today marked Earth's 60th anniversary as a member of the Galactic Federation, and Marcus carried with him a presentation that would showcase humanity's contributions to the Alliance. His shoes clicked against the crystalline floor as he approached the central podium, surrounded by the towering figures of alien delegates from 47 different worlds. Marcus was a man of 53 years, with silver threading through his dark hair and lines around his eyes that spoke of decades spent in diplomatic service. He had dedicated his entire adult life to building bridges between Earth and the stars. His daughter had been born the same year humanity joined the Federation. She had never known a world where humans stood alone in the universe. The chamber fell silent as he activated the holographic display. Images of human achievements flickered to life around him. Massive space stations that humans had constructed in Federation territory. Agricultural worlds that human farmers had transformed from barren rock into gardens that fed billions. Medical advances that human doctors had shared freely with species across the galaxy. Battle records from the border wars, where human soldiers had fought and died protecting Federation worlds from the Void Swarm invasion. Marcus spoke with pride in his voice. Honored delegates, for 60 years humanity has stood beside you as partners in this great alliance. We have given our labor, our knowledge, our resources, and our lives to strengthen the Federation. Today, Earth requests formal advancement from provisional membership to full council status. We believe our record speaks for itself. The alien delegates listened in silence. Their faces were impossible to read, composed of features that human eyes still found strange even after 6 decades of contact. There were beings of pure energy contained in force fields, creatures with 6 eyes arranged in circular patterns, entities that communicated through color-shifting skin, and dozens of other forms that defied easy description. At the head of the chamber sat High Chancellor Zorth, a being whose species had founded the Federation 12,000 years ago. His body resembled a massive insect carved from living metal, with compound eyes that glowed with an inner light. When he finally spoke, his voice emerged from a translation device that made it sound like grinding stones. Ambassador Chen, your presentation has been noted. The Federation Council will now deliver its judgment on Earth's petition. Marcus felt a flutter of nervousness in his chest, but he maintained his diplomatic composure. This was merely a formality. Earth had more than earned its place at the table. High Chancellor Zorth continued. After thorough review of Earth's contributions and careful consideration of humanity's role within the Federation, we have reached a unanimous decision. He paused, and in that pause Marcus felt the temperature in the room seem to drop. Earth's petition for full council membership is denied. Furthermore, the Federation Council has reclassified Earth from provisional member status to expendable resource category 7. The words hit Marcus like a physical blow. Expendable resource category 7. He knew what that classification meant. He had seen the reports from other worlds that carried that designation. They were strip-mined, harvested, and abandoned. I don't understand, Marcus said, his voice cracking slightly. We have served faithfully for 60 years. We have lost millions of our people in your wars. We have given everything you asked of us. Another council member spoke, a being called Rathmon whose species resembled a floating jellyfish of impossible size. You misunderstand your purpose, human. Earth was never invited to join the Federation as equals. Your species was identified as useful biological resource providers. You breed quickly, adapt easily, and most importantly, you die without significant political complications. Marcus felt his blood turn to ice. You're saying we were never meant to be partners? That everything we've built together was a lie? High Chancellor Zortha's mandibles clicked together in what might have been laughter. Consider it a practical arrangement. Humanity possesses useful genetic material, reasonable intelligence for a primitive species, and an admirable willingness to sacrifice yourselves for abstract concepts like honor and duty. These traits make you excellent soldiers and workers. They do not make you equals. The holographic displays that Marcus had so carefully prepared flickered and changed. Now they showed something else entirely. Federation survey reports from before first contact with Earth. Documents that classified humanity as aggressive resource species with exploitable social bonding behaviors. Strategic assessments that recommended using human emotional attachments as leverage for compliance. Battle plans that deliberately placed human forces in the most dangerous positions to preserve more valuable Federation troops. The Federation Council has issued the following decree, Zorth announced. All human military assets are to be seized immediately. All human-developed technology is now Federation property. Earth's population will be reduced to sustainable levels and relocated to designated labor worlds. Earth itself will undergo comprehensive resource extraction operations beginning in 30 standard days. Marcus stared at the being who was calmly ordering the destruction of his entire species. You can't do this. There are 12 billion people on Earth. Billions more in our colonies. Your colonies are already being secured as we speak, Rathmon said. The human settlement on New Terra received Federation peacekeeping forces 6 hours ago. The Mars colonies are currently being evacuated. Your military vessels have been ordered to stand down and prepare for decommissioning. Something broke inside Marcus Chen in that moment. 60 years of his life spent believing in a lie. Every sacrifice humanity had made, every life lost, every dream of a better future among the stars, all of it built on deception and manipulation. We will not accept this, Marcus said quietly. Zortha's eyes seemed to brighten. You have no choice. Your species lacks the military strength to resist. Your technology is centuries behind ours. You are alone, surrounded by civilizations that have already accepted Federation authority. Resistance will only increase the suffering of your people. 50,000 light-years away, Captain Elena Vasquez stood on the bridge of the Defiant, Earth's most advanced warship. She was a woman of 41 years with sharp features and eyes that had seen too much combat. The daughter of Mexican and Filipino immigrants, she had risen through Earth's space navy to command humanity's flagship through sheer competence and an uncanny ability to think 3 steps ahead of any opponent. Her communications officer, Lieutenant Tom Bradford, turned to her with fear written across his young face. Captain, we're receiving priority alerts from Federation Command. They're ordering us to power down all weapons systems and prepare to be boarded. Elena looked at the tactical display. 20 Federation warships had materialized around her vessel in perfect attack formation. She recognized their configuration immediately. This was not a peacekeeping force. This was an execution squad. What's the official reason for this action? Elena asked, her voice calm despite the racing of her heart. They're saying Earth has been reclassified. That we're being seized as Federation property. Tom's voice shook. Captain, what does that mean? Before Elena could answer, her display lit up with an incoming transmission. She recognized the encryption. It was from Ambassador Chen, routed through emergency diplomatic channels. Marcus's face appeared on her screen. He looked like he had aged 10 years in the past hour. Captain Vasquez, I don't have much time. The Federation has betrayed us. Everything we believed about the Alliance was a lie. They're going to destroy Earth and enslave our people. I'm transmitting all the evidence now. Whatever you do, don't surrender your ship. The transmission cut off, but the data dump continued for several more seconds. Elena's heart sank as she rapidly scanned through the documents. Battle deployment records showing human forces deliberately sent on suicide missions. Economic analyses calculating the profit margin from harvesting Earth's biosphere. Population control recommendations suggesting optimal reduction percentages for humanity. Ma'am, the Federation ships are powering up their weapons, her tactical officer reported. They're giving us 60 seconds to comply with shutdown orders. Elena looked at her crew. They were young, most of them. They had joined Earth's space navy believing they were protecting their home as part of a noble alliance. Now they were learning the truth in the worst possible way. All hands, this is the captain, Elena said over the shipwide intercom. What I'm about to tell you will sound impossible, but it's the truth. The Galactic Federation has declared war on Earth. They plan to destroy our world and enslave our people. We can surrender and accept that fate, or we can fight. She paused, looking around the bridge at faces that had gone pale with shock. I'm not ordering anyone to fight. This is beyond any orders I was given when I took command of this ship. But I'm going to fight, because I didn't spend 20 years in the service to hand over everything we've built to people who see us as livestock. If you want to stay with me, I need you at your stations. If you want to leave, I won't stop you. No one moved. Every member of her crew remained at their posts. Elena smiled grimly. Then let's show these bastards what humans do when someone tries to put us in chains. Tactical, target their command ship's shield generators. Helm, prepare for emergency combat maneuvers. Engineering, divert all power to forward weapons. Captain, we're outnumbered 20-1, Tom said. Our odds of survival are terrible, Elena finished. But humans have never been good at accepting terrible odds. Fire when ready. The Defiant's main weapons unleashed a barrage that lit up the darkness of space. The Federation command ship's shields flared and buckled under the unexpected assault. Before the other ships could react, Elena's vessel was already moving, executing maneuvers that made her crew's inner ears scream in protest. On Earth, in a bunker beneath the Rocky Mountains, General Robert Kane received the emergency alerts with a sinking feeling in his gut. He was a bear of a man at 60 years old, with a shaved head and hands scarred from decades of service. He had fought in the Void Swarm Wars, had seen things that haunted his dreams, and had believed that humanity's alliance with the Federation made all that sacrifice worthwhile. Now he was reading reports that shattered that belief into dust. "Get me President Martinez," he ordered. "And activate the Archimedes Protocol." His aide looked at him with confusion. "Sir, the Archimedes Protocol is theoretical. We've never tested it in actual combat conditions." "We're about to," Robert said grimly. "If the Federation thinks we're going to roll over and die quietly, they're about to learn why evolution made humans the meanest primates on Earth." President Sarah Martinez appeared on his screen within moments. She was a woman of 55 with gray-streaked black hair and eyes that had guided Earth through 15 years of unprecedented growth and prosperity. Now those eyes were filled with fury and determination. "General Kane, I've been briefed on the situation. Give me options." "Madam President, we have approximately 18 hours before Federation forces reach Earth orbit in overwhelming numbers. Our defensive fleet can delay them, but not stop them. However, we've been working on something that might change the equation." He brought up schematics that showed technology humanity had been developing in secret for the past decade. Weapons that bent the laws of physics. Ships that could move in ways no Federation vessel could match. Technologies reverse-engineered from captured enemy equipment during the border wars, improved upon by human ingenuity and desperation. "The Federation taught us everything we know about advanced warfare," Robert said. "But they made one critical mistake. They assumed we would never turn those lessons against them. They assumed we would always be grateful, obedient, and weak." Sarah Martinez looked at the plans, and a dangerous smile crossed her face. "General Kane, you have authorization to deploy everything we have. Every secret project, every experimental weapon, every advantage we've been hiding. The Federation wanted to classify us as expendable resources." Her voice hardened. "Let's show them what happens when you try to harvest a species that refuses to die. In the depths of Earth's oceans, in hidden facilities on the Moon, in secret laboratories scattered across human territory, scientists and engineers received encrypted orders and began activating systems that had never been meant for use except in humanity's darkest hour. That hour had arrived. Above Earth's atmosphere, Captain Elena Vasquez fought for her life and her crew against impossible odds. The Defiant was scarred and bleeding atmosphere, but still flying. She had destroyed 3 Federation ships and crippled 2 more using tactics they had never seen before, because humans fought differently than anyone else in the galaxy. Humans fought dirty, clever, and with an absolute refusal to accept defeat. "Captain, we're receiving a transmission from Earth," Tom reported. "It's General Kane. He says Project Archimedes is online. He's asking how many Federation ships we can lure to specific coordinates." Elena looked at her tactical display. Federation reinforcements were arriving by the minute. Soon there would be hundreds of ships. Thousands. The entire might of an empire that had ruled the stars for 12,000 years. "Tell the General we'll bring him everyone we can find," Elena said. "And tell him that humanity isn't dying today. We're just getting started." As the Defiant accelerated toward Earth, trailing Federation ships in pursuit, Marcus Chen broadcast a message that would be heard across human space. His face appeared on every screen, every communication device, every display where humans could see it. "People of Earth, citizens of all our colonies, I stand before you not as an ambassador but as a human being who has been betrayed. The Galactic Federation has declared us expendable. They plan to destroy our world and scatter our people. But I have seen something in the past hours that gives me hope. I have seen humans refuse to surrender. I have seen Captain Vasquez fight 20 ships with 1. I have seen our leaders activate weapons we built in secret because some part of us always knew this day might come." His eyes blazed with determination. "The Federation thinks we will break. They think we will beg for mercy. They have forgotten something important about humanity. We are the species that looked at the stars from caves and decided we would reach them someday. We are the species that turned deserts into gardens and diseases into history. We are the species that has never, ever accepted extinction quietly. So I say to the Federation, you wanted a fight? You're going to get one. And when this is over, the galaxy will remember what happens when you betray humanity." The transmission ended, and across human space, 12 billion people made their choice. They would not go quietly into darkness. They would fight. And the universe was about to learn that humanity's greatest strength had never been their technology or their numbers. It was their absolute, stubborn, unbreakable refusal to give up, even when all hope seemed lost. The war for humanity's survival had begun. The rise of human defiance. The first 24 hours of war changed everything humanity thought they knew about themselves. In the skies above Earth, Captain Elena Vasquez guided the battered Defiant through a gauntlet of Federation fire. Her ship was bleeding oxygen from a dozen hull breaches, her shields were down to 17%, and her crew had been fighting without rest for 16 hours straight. But they were still alive, and more importantly, they were leading 73 Federation warships directly into General Kane's trap. "Captain, we're approaching the designated coordinates," Lieutenant Tom Bradford reported, his voice hoarse from shouting orders during the running battle. "General Kane is asking for confirmation that we can maintain pursuit for another 90 seconds. Elena checked her tactical display. The Defiant was falling apart around her, but 90 seconds was an eternity in combat. Still, she had not brought her crew this far to fail now. "Tell the General we'll give him 2 minutes if he needs it. Helm, keep our speed just fast enough to make them think they can catch us." It was the oldest trick in warfare, dating back to when humans fought with spears and shields instead of plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes. Lead your enemy into an ambush. Make them think they're winning right up until the moment they realize they've lost. The Federation had taught humanity advanced warfare tactics, but they had never bothered to study human history. That was going to be their first mistake of many. Deep beneath the Pacific Ocean, in a facility that officially did not exist, Dr. Sarah Mitchell watched her creation power up for the first time. She was a woman of 38 years with auburn hair pulled back in a practical ponytail and eyes that had not seen sleep in 3 days. Before the betrayal, she had been working on theoretical applications of quantum entanglement for faster-than-light communication. After the betrayal, she had been given unlimited resources and a simple order: find a way to hurt them. "Project Archimedes is at 98% charge," her assistant called out. "All targeting solutions confirmed. We're tracking 73 Federation vessels in pursuit of the Defiant." Sarah's hands trembled slightly as she entered the final authorization codes. What she had built was not just a weapon. It was proof that human creativity, when pushed to its absolute limit, could accomplish the impossible. The Federation's technology was ancient and refined, perfected over thousands of years. Human technology was young and wild and completely unpredictable. And right now, unpredictable was exactly what the galaxy needed. "Fire," Sarah said quietly. From 12 hidden facilities scattered across Earth's oceans and continents, beams of coherent quantum energy lanced upward through the atmosphere. They moved faster than light itself, bending spacetime around them in ways that Federation science said was impossible. The beams converged on a single point in space, exactly where Captain Vasquez had led the pursuing Federation fleet. The explosion that followed was visible from the surface of Earth as a new star being born and dying in the same instant. When the light faded, 73 Federation warships had been reduced to scattered atoms. The Defiant, protected by shields specifically designed to resist the quantum cascade, emerged from the inferno battered but intact. High Chancellor Zorth received the report in his command chamber with something approaching disbelief. "Explain to me how a primitive species destroyed 73 warships with a single weapon we did not know existed." The tactical officer, a being named Vrel whose species had served the Federation for 6,000 years, displayed the sensor data with shaking appendages. "High Chancellor, the weapon appears to use quantum entanglement to create a cascade effect that destabilizes matter at the atomic level. Our shields were completely ineffective because the weapon does not actually strike the ship, it unmakes the space the ship occupies." "How long have the humans possessed this technology?" "According to our intelligence, they designed and built it in the last 72 hours. Zortha's compound eyes flickered with something that might have been concern. "That is impossible. Such a weapon would require decades of research and testing. Nevertheless, it exists. And High Chancellor, there is more. We are receiving reports from across human territory of similar attacks. The humans appear to have activated dozens of secret weapons projects simultaneously. Our forces are sustaining casualties at unprecedented rates." On Mars, Commander James Park crouched behind the wreckage of a Federation transport and signaled his team to advance. He was a man of 35 years with Korean ancestry and a background in special operations that had made him Earth's most decorated soldier before the war began. Now he was leading a ragtag force of colonists, miners, and anyone else who could hold a weapon in a guerrilla campaign against Federation occupiers. The Federation had taken Mars in the first hours of the war, landing 5,000 troops to secure the colony's 2 million human inhabitants. They had expected submission and cooperation. Instead, they had found themselves fighting for every street, every building, every meter of ground against people who refused to be conquered. Radio intercepts confirmed that the Federation is pulling forces from the surface to respond to the fleet engagement at Earth. James's second-in-command, a former mining engineer named Lisa Torres, whispered beside him. "That leaves approximately 800 troops still in the main settlement." James smiled grimly. "Then it's time we reminded them that humans know this ground better than they do. Signal all resistance cells. We're taking back our home. The attack began at midnight Mars time. Human fighters emerged from tunnels and maintenance shafts, from hidden bunkers and collapsed buildings. They wore no uniforms, carried weapons cobbled together from mining equipment and stolen Federation technology, and fought with a ferocity that shocked their opponents. The Federation soldiers had been trained to fight organized military forces. They had no experience dealing with civilians who became warriors the moment their families were threatened. James led his team through the industrial district, moving through passages that the Federation did not know existed. Mars had been humanity's first major colony, built over 60 years by people who understood that survival meant knowing every tunnel, every backup system, every secret way through the vast underground complexes. That knowledge was now a weapon. They hit a Federation supply depot from 3 directions simultaneously. Improvised explosives destroyed ammunition stockpiles. Hack drones turned their weapons on their former masters. And when the smoke cleared, James's people had captured enough equipment to arm another 1,000 fighters. Commander Park, we're receiving a transmission from Earth, Lisa said, her eyes wide with excitement. General Kane says the quantum weapon worked. They destroyed a major Federation fleet element. He's asking if Mars can hold out for another 48 hours while they prepare a relief force. James looked around at his fighters. They were exhausted, many were wounded, and they were facing an enemy with superior numbers and technology. But every face showed the same determination. They had tasted victory, and they were not going to let it slip away. Tell General Kane that Mars will be waiting for him, James said. Tell him we're not just holding, we're winning. Back on Earth, President Sarah Martinez convened an emergency meeting of humanity's leadership. The room was crowded with generals, admirals, scientists, and representatives from every major human colony. The mood was cautiously optimistic, but Sarah knew that one victory did not make a war. Status report, she ordered. General Kane stood and activated a holographic display showing human territory and Federation positions. Madam President, in the past 30 hours we have achieved the following: successful deployment of Project Archimedes, resulting in the destruction of one major Federation fleet element. Commander Park has initiated successful resistance operations on Mars, with 4 other colony worlds reporting similar uprisings. Captain Vasquez has survived with the Defiant and is proceeding to rally other human vessels. Most importantly, we have proven that Federation technology is not invincible. A murmur of approval ran through the room, but it was quickly silenced when Admiral Richard Cross spoke up. He was a veteran of 40 years with more combat experience than anyone else in Earth's military. General, we need to be realistic. We've bloodied their nose, but the Federation has thousands of worlds and millions of ships. We have one planet and a handful of colonies. How do we possibly win this war? Sarah had been waiting for this question. We don't win by matching them ship for ship or soldier for soldier. We win by changing the rules of the game entirely. Dr. Mitchell, please brief the Council on Project Phoenix. Sarah Mitchell stood, and despite her exhaustion, her voice was strong and clear. For the past decade, Earth scientists have been reverse engineering captured Federation technology from the Void Swarm Wars. We've made discoveries that the Federation either overlooked or deliberately hid from us. The most significant is this: Federation faster-than-light travel relies on a network of quantum beacons that create stable channels through hyperspace. These beacons are thousands of years old and considered indestructible. She paused for effect. We found a way to destroy them. The room erupted in excited conversation. Sarah raised her hand for silence. Project Phoenix is a network of human-built quantum disruptors. Once deployed, they will create dead zones in Federation space where FTL travel becomes impossible. We can effectively cut off their fleets from reinforcement and resupply. But there's a catch: we need time to build and deploy enough disruptors to make a strategic difference, and we need to capture Federation territory to place them in optimal positions. President Martinez leaned forward. How much time, Doctor? 6 months, if we can maintain control of our industrial capacity. 3 months if we can capture additional manufacturing facilities. Then that's our objective, Sarah said. We survive for the next 3 months while taking every Federation asset we can reach. Admiral Cross, I want our fleet to begin raiding operations immediately. Target their supply lines, their communication networks, anything that will slow them down and give us resources. Admiral Cross nodded slowly. It's a bold strategy, Madam President. Some might even call it insane. Sarah smiled without humor. Admiral, the Federation classified us as expendable resources and tried to harvest our planet. I think we're well past the point where sanity is a concern. We're fighting for survival, and humans have always been at their best when their backs are against the wall. Across human space, the message went out. This was not a fight for territory or resources or political advantage. This was a fight for existence itself. And humanity was not going to lose. Captain Elena Vasquez had used the brief respite after the Archimedes strike to repair the worst of the Defiant's damage. Her crew worked with the kind of desperate efficiency that only came from knowing that failure meant death. Within 18 hours, they had patched the hull breaches, restored the shields to 60% capacity, and managed to coax another 10% power output from the overtaxed engines. But Elena knew they could not fight alone. Earth's space navy had been scattered across Federation space when the betrayal began, and most ships had been forced to surrender or were destroyed trying to resist. She needed to find the survivors and bring them together into a force that could actually threaten Federation operations. "Tom, what's the status on our long-range communications?" she asked. Lieutenant Bradford looked up from his console with a tired smile. "We've managed to boost the signal using some creative modifications that Dr. Mitchell transmitted to us. We should be able to reach any human ship within 50 light-years. Then send out a general recall. Use every emergency frequency we have. Tell every human vessel to rendezvous at the Kepler station. Tell them that Earth is fighting back, and we need every ship that can still fly." The responses came slowly at first, then in a flood. Human vessels that had been hiding, running, or fighting desperate individual battles suddenly had hope. They had orders. They had a purpose beyond mere survival. Within 48 hours, Elena found herself commanding not just the Defiant but a fleet of 37 ships of various sizes and capabilities. Some were military vessels like hers. Others were converted cargo haulers, mining ships, even a civilian transport whose captain had armed it with improvised weapons and refused to surrender. She stood on her bridge and looked at the ragtag fleet surrounding her ship. By any rational measure, they were hopelessly outmatched. But Elena had learned something important in the past few days. Rational measures did not apply to humans when they were fighting for survival. "All ships, this is Captain Vasquez. I know what you're thinking. You're thinking that we're too few, too weak, too outgunned to make a difference. You're thinking about the families you've lost, the homes that have been destroyed, the certainty that we're probably all going to die before this is over." She paused, letting her words sink in. "But here's what the Federation forgot about humanity. We are the species that climbed down from trees and decided we were going to rule the planet. We are the species that looked at diseases that killed millions and said, not anymore. We are the species that stared into the darkness of space and built ships to chase the stars. Every time someone has told humanity that something was impossible, we've made it our personal mission to prove them wrong." Her voice hardened with determination. "The Federation thinks they can destroy us because we're young and primitive and weak. They're about to learn that being young means we're hungry. Being primitive means we're creative. And being weak? That just means we've learned how to fight dirty. So here's what we're going to do. We're going to hit their supply convoys. We're going to sabotage their bases. We're going to make them pay for every light year they travel in human space. And we're going to keep fighting until either they leave us alone or there's not a single human left breathing." The response came from 37 ships simultaneously, a roar of defiance that echoed across every communication channel. They were ready. On the Federation homeworld, High Chancellor Zorth convened an emergency council session. The mood in the chamber was tense in a way it had not been for thousands of years. The Federation had fought wars before, but they had always been wars of choice, conflicts that could be managed and controlled. This was different. This was a species that refused to accept its designated role in the galactic order. "The human resistance is spreading," Vrel reported. "We are receiving reports of uprisings on 17 worlds where humans were present as workers or soldiers. Our supply lines are under constant attack. Our communication networks are being hacked and disrupted. And most concerning, we are detecting quantum signatures that suggest the humans are deploying additional weapons similar to their Archimedes system." Another council member, a being called Thex who resembled a floating collection of geometric shapes, spoke with concern in its synthesized voice. "High Chancellor, perhaps we should reconsider our approach. The humans are proving more costly to subdue than anticipated. If we offered them a negotiated settlement." "No," Zorth interrupted. "We cannot show weakness. If we negotiate with the humans, every other species we have subjugated will see it as an opportunity to rebel. The humans must be crushed completely and publicly. Increase our military deployment. I want 1,000 additional warships sent to human space. I want every human world occupied. I want their industrial capacity destroyed so thoroughly that they cannot build so much as a communication satellite without Federation approval." Vrel hesitated. "High Chancellor, deploying forces on that scale will leave other sectors vulnerable. The Void Swarm has been quiet, but our intelligence suggests they are preparing for a new offensive. If we commit too heavily against the humans, The Void Swarm is a known threat, Zorth said dismissively. The humans are proving to be an unknown and unpredictable variable. Unknown variables must be eliminated before they can disrupt carefully maintained order. What Zorth did not know, what none of the Federation leadership knew, was that humanity had already made contact with other species living under Federation control. Species that had been classified as useful but subordinate and forced to accept limited sovereignty in exchange for protection. Species that had watched humans achieve in 60 years what they had spent centuries trying to accomplish, the Federation's attention and fear. Commander James Park stood in a secret meeting chamber beneath the Martian surface, facing representatives from 3 different alien species. They had come in secret, risking everything to speak with the humans who had dared to fight back. "Why should we trust you?" asked a being named Krell, whose species resembled upright walking salamanders. "The Federation has ruled for 12,000 years. They have crushed every rebellion, absorbed every threat. What makes humanity different?" James met the alien's eyes without flinching. "Because we have nothing left to lose. The Federation already tried to destroy us. They failed. Every day we survive is a victory. Every ship we destroy is proof that they're not invincible. And most importantly, we're not asking you to fight alongside us out of some noble ideal. We're offering you a practical alliance. Help us hurt the Federation, and when we win, you'll have a voice in whatever comes next." "And if you lose?" asked another representative, a creature of crystalline structure named Shale. "Then we all lose together," James said bluntly. "But at least we'll go down fighting instead of living on our knees. The Federation sees all of us as tools to be used and discarded. They did it to you. They tried to do it to us. The only question is whether you're willing to stand up and say, 'Enough.'" The alien representatives looked at each other. There was a long moment of silence. Then, one by one, they agreed. The Free Species Alliance was born in that moment, a coalition of races that had been oppressed for centuries and were finally willing to fight back. It was small and fragile and would need months to become a real threat to the Federation. But it was a beginning, and beginnings were what humanity had always been best at. Back on Earth, President Martinez received reports of the Alliance with cautious optimism. "This changes the strategic picture," she told General Kane. "If we can coordinate our resistance efforts with other species, we can force the Federation to fight on multiple fronts simultaneously. It also means we need to accelerate Project Phoenix," Kane said. "If we're going to build a real coalition, we need to prove that we can protect our allies. That means deploying the quantum disruptors sooner than planned." "How much sooner?" 6 weeks instead of 3 months. "It will be risky. The systems won't be fully tested. We'll be operating at the edge of our capabilities." Sarah looked at the strategic display, showing Federation fleets converging on human space like a closing fist. "We've been operating at the edge of our capabilities since this war started, General. Give the order. Deploy Phoenix in 6 weeks." As orders went out across human territory, as ships prepared for battle and scientists raced to complete impossible projects on impossible timelines, a single message was broadcast across every communication channel in human space. It was simple, direct, and spoke to something deep in the human spirit. "The Federation thinks we're broken. They think we'll surrender. They think we'll beg for mercy. They're wrong. Humanity is not a species that breaks. We are a species that bends, adapts, and comes back stronger. To every human fighting out there, to every ally who has joined our cause, remember this: we did not ask for this war. But now that it's here, we're going to finish it. Not because we think we can win easily. Not because we're stronger or smarter or better than our enemies. But because the alternative is extinction, and humanity has never accepted extinction as an option." The message ended with a simple phrase that would become the rallying cry of the resistance: "We will not go quietly." And across the galaxy, the Federation was beginning to realize that they had made a terrible mistake. They had awakened something in humanity that had been dormant, something that had always been there but had never been tested at this scale. The will to survive at any cost. The creativity to find solutions where none existed. And the absolute, unbreakable refusal to give up, no matter how dark the situation became. The war was far from over. In fact, it had barely begun. But humanity had proven something crucial in these first few days of conflict. They could fight. They could win. And most importantly, they could make the Federation bleed. The question now was whether they could do it long enough to survive. The answer would determine not just humanity's fate, but the fate of every species living under Federation rule. The old order was cracking, and in those cracks, something new was beginning to grow. Something that looked a lot like hope.